Well, thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you to the committee and the invitation. Actually, I have to say something. I did 4 postdocs, not 2. So yes, that's sort of the limit. But let me talk today about something that I think it's nice to talk because we tend not to talk about it in the academic environment. So the question is simple. Are there professional opportunities outside the academic world for PhDs? Well, by the way, are all of you PhD students? There are postdocs somewhere? All right. Well, regardless of the stage where you are in your career, I think that we all share the same feeling. We really love science. We love science, and we decided to do a research career because we're passionate about how nature works or how things work, chemistry, physics. It depends on the person. But then nobody tell us about the difference between loving science and being a scientist. And that's something that you learn along the way while you are working in research. So this would be the typical pathway for research. Here now we have a master degree. After that, you decide to start your PhD, your thesis. Then you finish your thesis and you go to a postdoc, or more than one postdoc. And then after that, you just jump into a tenure track position, and that's it. Well, that used to be the case, but that's not that common nowadays, right? So this has become increasingly competitive, and we know that. But then what's funny is that we tend to focus our attention in the academic pathway. And you see, there are other pathways. You have a non-research pathway and an industry pathway. But what happens is that we usually are in an environment where everybody is an academic. So you have an academic version of what a scientist or a researcher should be. This is a picture of a slide of Carmen Vela, the current Secretary of State of Research and Development and Innovation. And as you can see, this shows that you sort of have 1,000 pre-doc fellowships, then you can go up and get a position as a postdoc, then you can find a Ramón y Cajal position, and then a distinguished researcher position. So all this would be the typical academic pathway. However, if you go to the numbers, there's something that is quite worrying, right? So have a look. We're in the middle of an academic research crisis, and these are data from the United States. Since the 70s, the funding for research is going down and down. And it's even worse for young people. It's harder for young people to get their own funding. And we can't talk about numbers forever, right? But the bottom line is that right now, there is 8% or even less than 8% of PhD students that end up in academia with a tenure track position. So what happens with the other 92%? Well, maybe that's only in America, but no, it's not. If you go to the United Kingdom, less than 4% of people that start a PhD ends up being an academic, a tenure track academic. So that's something that is happening throughout the world. It's not something happening only here. It's everywhere. Now, if you see the picture upside down, then you realize that there is a lack of balance in the numbers, right? It's not the same 1,000 fellowships and 25 whatever. So the consequence of this scientific system that started with a lot of emotion, passion, and love for science can evolve to something that is completely different. And this is not a joke. I mean, there is an increasing number of people doing their PhDs that develop anxiety, stress, and even mental illness. And this is partially because you are receiving a double message from the scientific system. On the one hand, they're telling you that you have to to be a leader, you have to be very good at what you're doing. You have to compete and get grants. Once you get a grant, you need another larger grant, and you need a paper. But then if you get a paper, you need more papers. And the impact factor needs to be more and more. So everything is more. And on the other hand, they are telling you that there is no room for everybody. So this situation is so hard to understand, especially for young people, for young students. So that's one of the things why some PhDs decide to leave the academia, just because of the situation of the job market. But then there are another option. There are people that still love science, and they love their life in the lab, working, doing experiments. But they have the feeling that they can send a different message to the society, and they can contribute something special to the society that is not just doing research in a lab. So maybe, for one reason or the other, it's time to explore other options.